friendly.
Yeah, same.
ready.
Yeah.
Click. Alright, we are unmuted. What's up, ladies and
Oh no.
gentlemen?
Uh,
I'm sorry. Okay, guys, we're meeting again. Stream's over. Bye.
Bye.
uh,
I have
it's just,
stage fright.
this is just gonna be a random fuck all episode where we just talk about whatever. What has everybody been playing recently? Tell me the games.
Other than Ark.
Yes.
Well, we just played Deep Rock Galactic,
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of
and
Deep
the
Rock.
Steam sale just went on, right?
Yeah,
So I got like 4 new games.
yeah, 2 of them
I
for
played a
me.
little bit of Lost Ember, which you got me.
Yeah.
Super freaking cute. I love it. It is super chill.
I have
What else did I pick up there?
that Ori.
I did get Ori. I need to set up a stream for that.
I have been playing Dragon. I've been replaying Dragon Quest XI on my PS4
Oh, nice.
for platinum's sake.
Of course.
I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise again on my Steam Deck.
for
And
the 4th time.
fifth or sixth, but who's counting?
Jesus.
Damn.
I can't even get through it 1 time.
I've
You guys
been
over here beating it 6 times.
yeah. I have a backlog. I think after I beat Dragon Quest, at least after I beat Dragon Quest XI, I'm going to probably play Metroid Prime Remastered because I finally found a physical copy of it.
Nice.
Nice. I also got Bendy, the new Bendy, and the
yeah.
or the Dark Revival. That's the other game that I got.
What about you, Wolf? What have you been playing?
I have been playing a bit of Chris Tales.
Yay.
And actually I've been playing like older zombie games. I played a bit of Dead Island.
Dead Island is fun. Dead Island is very fun.
And yeah, I have a few friends that I'm playing it with, and I think we're like just before the last mission.
Oh, nice.
And
Well, yeah, isn't the second one coming out soon?
Yeah.
I heard it's in development hell and has been for like 10 years or something crazy like that.
No, they actually showed trailers and stuff for it. It's coming out, I think, like in like a month or 2.
Oh, wow.
I was gonna say, I thought it was like coming out.
Yeah. Well, it might be.
Hopefully.
We also have Dead Island Riptide to play. We got it on sale for like $8 or something.
Yeah, I said it was
like
probably super cheap.
Yeah.
I like
and then also
like
Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, I like zombie
Left 4 Dead's a lot of fun.
hate zombie games. Like, I have a fear of zombies. I really don't like zombies. And I think Dead Island's one of the only zombie games that I like don't mind playing.
I mean, with Left 4 Dead, you can like mod the zombies into Zoidberg. That's what I did.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh my God, Left 4 Dead 2 has so much. You can if you can think about changing it, you can.
I turned the default pistol into Bochi the Glock, so it makes like anime girl sounds when you shoot it.
Very nice.
And there's a lot of things you can change about the game, and that's probably one of the highlights of the game is how much of it you can change.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mods for that game are great. It's been out for so long and it's so popular that you kind of just have like everything at your fingertips.
Yeah. You push a couple buttons and the game isn't even recognizable anymore.
Yeah. I've also played a couple hours of Chris Tales.
Yeah.
I got that on the Switch, and I'm kind of regretting that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Because every time you get into a battle,
yeah,
it loads for like a good 15 seconds going into and out of random encounters.
Yeah.
Which is kind of tiring.
Not great.
The game's pretty good. It's definitely Paper Mario inspired.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't quite get there.
Yeah.
Combat wise, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think the biggest
that's pretty much
thing
all
about
I've been playing.
I think the thing that makes me like Chris Tales, one is art style, and 2 is that everything is voice acted. which makes the world feel lived in. Like even the smallest NPCs that you maybe talk to once are all voice acted.
Yeah, that is super nice.
Yeah, it makes the world definitely feel. It makes it feel like they actually tried to make the world feel lived in, and like everybody talks differently and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And the whole time thing is also pretty unique, like especially when it's like put into combat too.
Yeah. I do like the time mechanics in combat. The game did the thing where, like, in the first hour and a half, there's
You lose
just,
it.
like, a scripted loss.
Yeah, you lose it.
And it's never... like, in that game, it was super not... Like, you could not see it coming.
I was confused. I'm not gonna lie. When that happened, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for people who don't know, it's not actually really a spoiler, but there's, like, a pack of wolves
Yeah.
that you show up to in a gate, and the game makes you think that you're about to fight a boss, because it, like, gives you a full party heal item that you can only use at save points, and a save point, and then you go to this, like, you initiate this fight by clicking on this pack of wolves.
Yeah.
But all of the wolves are invincible. Like, you cannot kill them.
One of those.
And then they kill you. So, like, I used up the tent at the save point, and then I saved, which was a huge mistake on my part, I guess. But I used up the tent, and then I saved, and then I went to the wolves, and I, like, tried to do this fight, and I used all of my healing items. And I didn't even kill one of these guys, and there were 5. There were 5 wolves, and I was focusing one of them for like 4 turns, and they didn't fucking die. And then my character died, and it started doing dialogue. I'm like, okay, cool. So I restarted. And then I regretted saving after using the tent instead of before using the tent, because I wasted the tent too. Because I have to just sit there and eat shit until I die. So that kind of put me off, and that was like right at the beginning of the game. But there hasn't been anything like that since, and I'm hoping it'll stay that way.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's really interesting, just because there's a lot of times in games that is a thing that I'm glad died off, is like unwinnable boss fights. Or if it's unwinnable,
like
it's very obvious.
Win.
In that case, it's bullshit, because it's very obvious that, like, it's not obvious up front that you're supposed to lose that fight.
Right.
But because you can't, like, see levels.
Yeah.
Like in Xenoblade, when you're not supposed to win a fight, you know it, because it says that they're fucking 40 levels above you. And you're like, oh, yeah, this makes sense.
Unless you're insane, like, and you're one of those guys who like do level 1 runs and you beat the game at level 1 because you're insane. But other than that...
Sure, but if you're doing a level 1 run, you understand the game well enough to know when the scripted deaths are happening. Because, like, no game that's reasonable is going to have a difficulty curve of going from level 20 to level 65 from one fight to the next.
Yeah, it's definitely a game fad that I'm glad died off.
Yeah.
Because and most of the time it feels so forced. Like, it doesn't really, like, fit into the story at all. It's just kind of like, hey, you can't fight this yet. One game that does it perfectly well is Chrono Trigger, where the first time you fight Lavos, it's very obvious you're supposed to lose. This thing is like a world-ending, like, disaster. So, of course, you get your shit kicked in by it. Like, the first time you fight it. You're not intended to beat it, and it's very obvious, because they tell you how dangerous Lavos is the entire game. And then the first time you fight it, he does one move, and it does, like, 400, 500 damage. Like, that makes sense, because it's Lavos.
Is there a special ending if you kill him in the first encounter?
Yeah, that's one of the best things about Chrono Trigger, is there's like 30, 40 plus endings to the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And one of them is beating him when you're first supposed to beat him.
That is another thing that kind of sucks about most scripted fights that Chrono Trigger does better, is, like, even if you know you're supposed to die,
In New Game Plus, you can come back and do it and beat it.
Well, sometimes you can, but most of the time it's like, okay, well, you were obviously not supposed to win this fight, and you either win the fight and it plays the cutscene like you lost.
Yeah,
that's what happens a lot of the time in Tales games. Yeah. Or they just like stay at 1 HP.
Yeah.
Which is even worse, because you're sitting there wailing on them for a while, and then they just don't go down. You're like, oh, okay. But yeah, Chrono Trigger is a cool video game. Turns out, hot take.
What a hot take! Chrono Trigger's like one of the best RPGs of all time. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
Like the golden standard.
Yeah, I'm sure some people would probably disagree with us, but they're just
no. That's a pretty lukewarm take. I would agree with you.
Lukewarm take.
Yeah, there's a lot of. What about you, Liz? What do you feel? What is a game standard that you don't like that you're glad has been removed?
Oh God.
I hated QuickTime events for a while.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of QuickTime. I'm bad at QuickTime events, which is why I don't like them. I don't know. I don't really have a specific thing.
Yeah,
I feel
QuickTime
like
events are interesting.
Like when I went, what?
QuickTime events are interesting, like Hi-Fi Rush, for example. Like Hi-Fi Rush has them, but there's not really a punishment for losing them. They're just like a nice thing that you can do, and it looks cool.
Also, they're the same every time.
Yeah.
Like, in Hi-Fi Rush, they're kind of predictable. When I went back and I tried playing through Bayonetta, I feel like I might have talked about this before, but like, the QuickTime events in that game were just thrown in the middle of cutscenes.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you failed them, it would like send you back 5 minutes. It was fucked up. You'd fail one QuickTime event and be like, no, you're going back to the start of the fight. What's up?
In Hi-Fi Rush or in a different game?
In Bayonetta.
Oh, yeah.
Like the first Bayonetta game.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
In Hi-Fi Rush, there's like the parts where like you kill an elite enemy, and it. Oh god.
What? Hello? Oh, he might have had a good.
Hello? Sorry, my computer decided to sleep. I
sleep.
In Hi-Fi Rush, you kill an elite enemy, and it like throws you into this QuickTime event like thing, but it contributes to mastery because you like it's the same for that enemy type every time. So it's not like it throws something new at you, and it also like stops the game and changes the camera and like makes you do inputs from the very beginning. Because the problem I had with Bayonetta is you would like go into a QuickTime event, and you wouldn't know it was a QuickTime event because it would be a cutscene for 30 seconds. And then suddenly would throw a button prompt at you. And if you didn't press it in half a second, you went back to the beginning of the entire boss fight.
Ugh.
But Hi-Fi Rush did it different. And like you said, like, there's no... I would say there's no punishment, but I guess the punishment is you don't kill the enemy, and you have to do the QuickTime event again.
Well, I haven't gotten that far into it. I've only done the first mission, but like when I'm fighting the first boss, when you're doing like the QuickTime event for it, there's not really a punishment for like failing the QuickTime event.
Right.
You're just kind of like, oh, it could. I guess I just missed out on extra damage, whatever. Right? It doesn't feel like it's like, oh my god, you have to land this QuickTime event to make this fight either be easier or go faster. That and Hi-Fi Rush
like
is also
rewarding good execution as opposed to punishing bad execution.
Which is what Hi-Fi, like, the rhythm stuff is really nice because you don't have to fight on beat like you would every other normal. Like, you could still play the game normally. It's just playing on beat rewards you a lot more, which is really fucking nice because I don't like it when
I think post first level you're gonna have a real tough time if you're not playing on beat.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Well, I have been playing. I've been playing on beat mostly.
Yeah, well, the game is the difficulty is like crafted around you playing on beat most of the time.
Yeah.
And also, it like lags your inputs and waits for them to happen until the next beat. So it's gonna feel really weird if you're not trying. Yeah. But that is the whole point of the game. So if you're not doing that, like, you shouldn't even be playing the game anyways.
Yeah, what's
to
the
be
point?
honest. Yeah, go play like Devil May Cry. It's not, which isn't a bad thing to play. It's just the game without the rhythm portion.
Yeah. Also, Devil May Cry is also just really fucking good.
It is.
If you like game, it's oh my god, Devil May Cry is really fun because it's also like so over the top, but never takes itself seriously. Like you get like a scene in Devil May Cry 5 where Dante dances like Michael Jackson and then beats somebody up with a motorcycle, and you're just like, okay, you're like, all right, so this game is a game.
For sure. I feel like when games take themselves too seriously and the gameplay is kind of like wacky and zany, it just feels really odd.
Yeah, it is. It's a slap in the face at certain points.
Yeah, like I was playing Dead Island, and like I feel like Dead Island is a really silly game.
Yeah.
When you're playing, especially when you're playing it multiplayer, because I don't know, the way that I was playing it with my friends is like we were running around, and the game was kind of easy, so we were trolling each other. Like one of us would throw a gas canister into the middle of a group of zombies and the other players, and shoot the gas canister. And then down the other two players, but all the zombies would be dead. And we're all sitting there like calling each other's pieces of shit, and you know, but we're still picking each other up with the med kits we have.
Sure.
But you go from that, and then there's like the character that is literally only there to hold your items for the game, talking about how she's like sad that her father died. And then there's this cutscene with like this really sad score where her father as a zombie like shows up at the door and she has to shoot him dead. And you're just like, I didn't come here for this.
Yeah.
Like I'm here for the funny game where I throw a kunai at a zombie and see the big number.
Right.
I'm not here for this emotional ride.
Yeah.
And also I don't know if it's just because the game is old or because it was bad, but like the animation and models did not lend themselves to emotional scenes.
That's definitely chalking. That's definitely probably chalking up to the game being old.
Well, I mean, like half the game, it feels like most characters had their eyeballs rolled into the back of their heads. And I'm sitting here playing the definitive edition of the video game, and half the time when I throw a weapon, it like gets stuck in a wall, not in a designed way, but in a very like this is obviously a geometry problem.
That polish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I don't think Dead Island is a good game, honestly, but I have been having a lot of fun with it.
It's not like it's not like AAA top of the line, you know, kind of game. Not even like the story is that thrilling. But
I think definitely
it's a fun game.
Yeah, definitely the sentence that you said. Like, it's definitely meant to be fun with friends. Like, for example, you said you throw a kunai at a zombie. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, just that one sentence should be enough. Like, hey, man, this game is just fun. Just play the game. Just have fun.
Don't expect anything from it.
I hit my friends with a Molotov cocktail.
And they all died.
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have been standing in the middle of the zombie horde when I had a Molotov cocktail in my hand.
Just maybe.
Whoops, all Molotovs.
It's their fault for not knowing that I had a Molotov cocktail. That's all.
Exactly. It's there in my hand. They should be watching me the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Those games are the fun games that you can definitely play with friends. Like, we've been playing a lot of Deep Rock Galactic, and I don't know how much you know about that, Wolf. But like,
oh, I do. Yeah. I've played that game with the same group that I played the zombie game with.
Yeah, that game is really fun. And one of the highlights of it is that like you go in you fuck around a little bit in the main hall, and then you go on a mission for like 10, 15 minutes, and then you fuck around. The game cycle is just really fun, and like there's not anything in between it. Like it's a very I don't want to say it in it's very basic. Like the gameplay cycle is very basic, where you're just like, hey, you
Yeah, it's
go
very
in,
simple.
you go in, you mine shit, you evac, and then you come back, you fuck around, then you go back in, you mine shit, you do maybe another separate goal or whatever, and then you go back, and it's a really fun gameplay cycle. And it's basic,
I
but
agree.
it works.
The problem I have with Deep Rock Galactic is that like the game, the way the progression works, the game doesn't feel super fun until you've like put a lot of time into it.
Yeah.
At least for me, I was playing with friends who were further along in the progression tree than I was.
Mm.
And like when you play on any difficulty but the easiest one, you kind of just do no damage at all.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yeah,
But
nobody likes that.
That's pretty common too. Like I was playing a bit of Payday 2, and like that game's pretty similar in that like before you're like level 40, you just don't have anything. And you don't have access to any guns, and the starting weapon is like incredibly bad. It's a rifle that feels worse than a pistol to shoot somehow. I don't understand why games would poison the well so much with their gameplay, but
yeah,
I guess if you feel so bad at the beginning, it makes feeling good at the end better, maybe. But in a game with a good end game, I would be playing the end so long that I'd probably forget how the beginning even went.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's super important.
Speaking of end games, I think that's a good drop-off point of one of the topics I wanted to talk about.
I was trying to steer it there.
Yeah, about why Monster Hunter Endgame, at least now, kind of sucks ass. And we're gonna start off with Gen Alt, and why I feel like Gen Alt's Endgame is not amazing, it's not excellent, but I feel like why it is kind of fun is because at least when you're doing the end game shit like hypers or fighting the deviants, every mission, like every deviant mission is different in some way. Where it's like, hey, here's like another deviant to fight, or like here's a couple monsters, capture the deviant, kill it without dying, like fight it without dying once or whatever. And that's why I feel like the gameplay loop of fighting the deviants isn't as bad. Don't get me wrong, it's still pretty fucking bad because towards the point they're all the same because every single like G1 mission is going to be capture it, or G2 mission is going to be captured or kill it without dying. And
oh boy, it's time for the no items mission, everyone.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does get really boring, but in the terms of why I feel like it's still kind of fun to farm deviants, especially like with people who like have never fought the deviants before, is really fucking funny because they just kind of forget that like G rank monsters are fast as shit, and and like they fight like the G rank monster, and then they're like, hey, why is this Tetsukaba suplexing rocks and jumping on top of me? You know, you're just like, what the fuck, you know?
I am a huge drill tusk enjoyer.
Same here. And then let's cut to say like World and Rise. Both of their end games is just kind of like, you know, you liked farming in Monster Hunter. What if we just make you farm, but like trickle down your power like as you go along, where it's like, hey, you know, you were fighting monsters with reasonable health, but now monsters have like 100k health, and they take forever to kill. And granted, time's on everything, but like if I don't want to spend like 15-20 minutes in a fight, it's just
I feel like it's more reasonable in Rise to do that than it is like in older games. Because in Rise, during the end game with normal monsters, your hunts are taking like 4 minutes, maybe. So increasing the health pools is kind of like the logical next step.
It does make sense
from a game design standpoint.
Yeah.
Because you want people to experience everything the monster has to offer, but when you're sitting there and stun locking it for 3 minutes and then it dies, you like start to forget what made the game good in the first place.
Yeah.
It's kind of what happened in Monster Hunter 4.
Yeah. Well, until you start fighting 140s, the game is kind of eh.
Well, yeah, it's just like, okay, I'll bring the trap, and everyone brings a grape sword, and then
it dies.
Yeah, like you're not playing the game at that point. You're just kind of like
bullying it.
You're going through the motions.
Yeah, it's another. The afflicteds are cool, and in theory they're really cool, because when they have a story standpoint, where they're like, hey, everything's just kind of getting afflicted with the shit that Malzano and Guys Magorm did. Spoilers, I guess. You don't. Come on, the game's been out forever. If you haven't fought Guys Magorm yet, what the fuck are you doing? Anyway.
Caring about the story in a Monster Hunter game. Cringe.
Yeah. You're cringe. But like from like a gameplay standpoint, they kind of make sense because it's like, hey, everything's afflicted. You kind of got to go kill it. I do like the fact that when they add quests where you have no choice but to kill them instead of capture them, because then that's all anybody would ever do is just capture them and be done with it. And I like the fact that you have to kill them. And it also makes sense because, if you just capture them, they're just going to keep spreading the blight anyways. But I agree with the Rise thing about like even in like early master rank, shit's gonna die. Also, nobody told me that I forgot to change over to the Kezu, but
I was wondering if that was intentional or not. I was gonna say something. Sorry.
Was not. But like
YouTube's shadow banning you for me. I can't find your stream.
That's so weird.
It's fucked up.
But
you're being censored right now.
I'm sorry because they're censoring me because I'm about to start talking bad about World.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Probably.
Yeah. Fair.
One of the things that I didn't like about I felt as weak at the start of Iceborne as I did at the beginning, because there's not really like
the start and beginning.
Yeah.
The start and end.
Start and end. Yeah, whatever. Shut up.
Okay.
Because the health increase from Iceborne to high rank was so fucking drastic. It didn't feel good. Whenever I finished the quest in World, I was like, "Yay! I finally did it!" Not like oh my god, like a hard quest, like oh my god, we finally fucking beat it. It was more. It felt more like a trial than like an accomplishment to kill stuff in that game because the health pool was so fucking massive.
Yeah.
And like I get it. You have Clutch Claw. You ram a monster like 4 times and like they take like 4,000 health and shit and all that stuff. Clutch Claw is a completely separate
you don't
topic.
even have to. You don't even have to bring a trap to stun lock it.
Yeah. It was just weird. Like the massive health pools from like fighting like stuff that dies in maybe like 5-6 minutes in high rank, and if you're really good, maybe like 3 or 4. Into hunts just taking 10 to 15 minutes just because they can wasn't fun to me in World. Especially like at the start of Iceborne. Like endgame Iceborne, that would make sense. But like beginning Iceborne where hunts are taking like 10-15 minutes just because the health pools are so bloated.
Yeah, that first ice fish fight is real rough.
Yeah.
In Iceborne. Like playing with endgame gear and it's still taking forever. Wondering what the hell is going on.
Because I was like, is it just me? Like, am I just bad at the game? Or like, what's happening? But then like, I looked it up and I was like, oh, you just have an absurd amount of health. Okay, that makes more sense.
Right. Well, and it is always kind of an issue in Monster Hunter when you like go from one rank to another.
Yeah.
There's just like a huge change in all statistics.
Yeah.
And usually it doesn't matter too much. But for like that first time when you have the old gear in the new rank, it's real noticeable.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I will knock for Rise is it's not needed, but it does kind of enforce the meta on you towards the end, where It's like, hey, either you run a super high DPS set and you can pass the DPS checks, or you don't run the meta and you never pass the DPS checks, and then the monster's just out of 10 the entire time, and it takes you 20 minutes to kill it. And you're just like, okay, so it's either use the meta and like make it. It's either use the meta and make your life a little more tolerable, or don't use the meta and just suffer the entire time.
Yeah. I don't super remember that in Iceborne, but I also just went for attack skills all the time in World.
I always do. I always go for attack skills.
Yeah. I guess that's not really a complaint that we really need to be posing.
Yeah.
We play the game the way we do, and I guess we're playing it, like, quote, correctly.
Quote unquote, yeah.
Although I generally think games are better if there are more correct ways to play them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, like, one way is more correct than another, but, like, there are multiple correct ways.
Yeah.
I should state.
What about you, Liz? How you feel?
I just play the game and I like it, and I don't really think too far in depth about it. Like, I don't mind taking 20 minutes on a hunt. Like, I'm there to play the game and to, like, I like observing the monster and seeing all the different moves, and, like, I haven't played all the different monster hunters for 20 years or, you know, whatever. So, to me, none of this really bothers me, or, you know, I don't really have a say.
Liz is like, I don't know, man. Greatsword go burn. That's all I think about.
Yeah, like I like my greatsword. I like I really like when fights are like methodical and they just feel good. Like I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess that would make more sense as to why. Because
so like the whole min max and all that stuff, I just don't do it.
Yeah, I feel like Monster Hunter players they're like kind of chasing the high of that first great Jaggy fight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The like well, you probably don't because you were experienced, but Monster Hunter 4 was my favorite.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, it was my first. It's also my favorite, but whatever. Monster Hunter 4U was my first Monster Hunter game. And, like, I spent a good 15 minutes on that Jaggy fight.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't think I've ever, like, quite gotten a hit of Monster Hunter like that again.
Yeah. Well...
and the big health pools might be, like, trying to chase that in a way.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of respect them. And, yeah, as Liz said, like, these monsters have a lot of moves, and a lot of the time, when you kill it immediately, you can't see those. So it might just be, like...
I guess...
The devs trying to make you actually play the game.
Yeah, well, I can't
play the game, damn it!
But I do understand, like, the end game of Rise being like hey, you've spent your entire time bullying these monsters, now it's their turn. Like, now
they mad.
Yeah, now you actually kind of have to deal with the monster. You can't just bully it into submission. Now you kind of have to deal with the monster's gimmicks. And
I do really like how the are they anomalies?
Yeah,
where they have like the zits you have to pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that system, and I guess it was in Generations too. But the
hypers.
Having spots where you have to focus, I think that's really cool because it makes you think more about different safe places.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, especially when I was playing like Monster Hunter 4, I found one spot to stand for the whole fight,
and I
would just stand there.
Yeah.
But if you're like going for popping these zits, you need to know a lot more like safe positions.
Yeah.
And how the monster works. And I think that is a cool way to kind of push the player into having a bit better mastery than they did before.
Yeah. And rewarding you, because I kind of, Because like I started playing Monster Hunter and Freedom Unite, where like you're just kind of flailing in the ocean until the game decides to drown you. Like,
Yeah.
because you played a very little bit of Freedom Unite, and you're like, this ain't it, Chief. And it could also be like for example, like everybody loves the first Monster Hunter game. I love Freedom Unite to death, and I know it's a fucking garbage Monster Hunter game. I know it's an ass Monster Hunter game. There's no quality of life, anything. The monster AI is fucking bullshit. Diablos digs more than he does in World and like General combined. Like it's fucking absurd. Like I get it. The game is not, but I love the game. I love the game so much.
Well, and so many people do.
Yeah.
Like, Freedom Unite is definitely up there in popularity.
It's also a fun. I love it more now when I played it again with Quango and all my other friends, and we played it again as like actual we consider ourselves actual hunters now, where we understand Monster Hunter better. So going back and playing the game as like an actual hunter makes the game hit different because you're like, okay, I get to play the game and I understand it more. But the game doesn't give a fuck about how much you know. Like, Feeding Me Nice, like, I don't fucking care. We're gonna make you learn this entire game again because it's so different. And I think that's one of the fun things about going back and playing old Monster Hunter games, is it kind of flips it on its head, where it's like, hey, you know all this shit, but in reality, you know all this stuff and how to play this game. Like at sort of like a core level, like you understand how to play Monster Hunter, but you don't really understand or remember how to play this Monster Hunter game.
Do you know how to play Monster Hunter without wire bugs anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, every time I get hit in anything now I wire bug. I try to wire bug.
Dude, I went back to World after playing Rise, and I was trying to wire bug. Like, ow! Wrong game!
Anytime you get tapped gently, you're like, ah!
Shit.
Nah, when your face hits the dirt, you gotta sit there and chew for a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. You gotta tell us what the soil tastes like before you can get up. And
if you don't, they're gonna smack you again.
Yeah.
So you learn to stay down.
Like Tigrex, I'm still deathly afraid of Tigrex in Freedom Unite because that motherfucker is all gas and they don't even have a break. Like he either hates you or he really fucking hates you, and there's no.
They got one pedal in that fucking Tigrex car.
Yeah, that's it. It's all gas.
Tigrex go new.
Like if you ever decide to like look up a video about Tigrex in Freedom Unite, just look at it. Like he's charging or he's roaring or he's fighting you or he's charging, and then when I learned from Tigrex specifically that sometimes it's better to just kiss the dirt, make out with it for another hot minute. Like you don't have to get up immediately.
Life's too short to not live in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy the ground.
Because tigers will make you eat it again very shortly. So.
Yeah. Life's gonna be a lot shorter if you're not eating it.
Yeah. Kiss the ground. Enjoy your time kissing the ground before you get up. And I think that's also.
Are there even any counter moves in Freedom Unite?
No, there is not.
No, there aren't. Yeah, that's how I fight Tigrex now in games. I'm just like, I wait for it to Mew at me, and I hit it with the counter move.
Yeah.
And you do that a couple dozen times, and it falls over.
You can sit behind a shield in Freedom Unite.
Okay.
You can like sit behind like your land shield in Freedom Unite, which to be fair is a very effective strategy because it's one of those moments where you're like, please, I just need a minute. I just want to be safe for a hot second, please.
Well, you know me, I'm a Lance enjoyer for
sure. Yeah. Oh, I've been using Lance for progression in Rise, going through it on PC. I forgot how fucking busted Lance is. You're just like, nope, parry, so cool. Nope, parry, nope, counter, nope, parry, nope, block. Okay, whatever, man. Yeah. And the monster like.
Do you have the shield dash yet?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, the shield dash is so good.
Yeah, it's so funny because you're just like, haha, wacky woohoo shield man, but I actually counter your dumb shit. Keep flailing at me and you're gonna keep getting parried. And I think one of the biggest things that's one thing I like, especially like I was saying for Tigrex, it like taught you sometimes it's a really good fight. I really like fights where they teach you shit. Where it's like, hey, sometimes you should just accept the fact that you're gonna be on the ground and you should stay there for a little bit longer before you get up. Like teaching you like Superman diving. Like Tigress is also like
Nergy taught me that one.
Yeah. He was like, I should just stay on the ground.
Yeah, it's like this is where I live now.
And recognizing what moves like you should just be like on the ground for.
Yep.
Because everybody's so like, I want to get right back into the fight, and I'm like, well, you can't do that because
Sometimes you just shouldn't.
Nuggy's just gonna slap you back under the ground like, what'd you learn? Like nothing.
Hey, bitch.
Yeah, I can't fault World too much because World did start a lot of the changes for the weapons that I play the most now. Like the changes to Longsword, I know might be a bit controversial for some, but I definitely like them. And Lance definitely got
boosted a lot in World.
Yeah.
Going from Gen 0, Lance to World Lance, you're like, oh, this is an actual weapon now.
Yeah. This went from a stick to a fucking machine of death.
Yeah,
real quick.
And not only that, but like a safe machine of death where I'm just like, block, parry, okay, I'm gonna punish you every time you ever hit me ever.
Yeah. Laser beams? Nah.
I think same thing with like I'd say dual blades also got a really good glow up in World. Because
what changed with dual blades?
The combos are a little bit different, and like the demon dance is a little bit different. I think the demon dance is even longer. And also you can do like the jump off of a thing and just like Beyblade down a monster, which is really
that's
fun.
true.
It's so satisfying.
Yeah, I remember watching people play aerial dual blades in Generations. It definitely wasn't the same.
It's not safe. Aerial dual blades is not safe in the slightest in Geno, where especially endgame fights where you actually get punished for being in the air more than you do being on the ground in Geno.
I think people either grew out of aerial style or they they were the main source of carts and parties.
Yeah, definitely. You get humbled really quickly playing aerial style in Geno, especially against deviants. You get humbled very quickly.
Just get swiped out of the sky, as you should.
And then you die, and they're like, what'd you learn? And they're like, I just gotta keep flipping more. And you're like, okay, man, good for you, buddy. Insect Glaive, I feel like also kind of got a glow up, because like they changed the controls a lot, and they added a lot of like stuff like being able to aim your Kinsect, which is really nice.
Yeah. There were a lot of good weapon changes in World.
Yeah, no, I'm not knocking like the weapon changes for World. If anything, the weapon changes are the minor thing. I like a lot of the weapon changes for World. There's just some mechanics that I feel like they're just confusing. Like cutscene skip, being able to skip some and not others. where like 3 generations ago I was able to watch cutscenes with my friends no problem on a Rico console, but that's a topic for another day. And also I just like I get it. They're trying to flex their big dick. Look at us, we're on a next generation console. Look at these big maps. And Rise kind of does that, but the maps are more like condensed for me in Rise, and especially because you have the dog, where like you can be anywhere you want with the dog almost immediately, and like three boosts in your kind of way you want, and also the sub camps. The playstyle. I also like the addition of adding camps in World, because like as somebody you understand, like imagine like if they gave us like a remake of like the old Monster Hunter games, like take like Freedom Unite, where like the mountain, the snowy peak mountain, we're starting from the base camp every single fucking time you wanted to die.
Yeah. Oh boy, time to fucking climb Mount Everest for 3 mushrooms.
Time
again.
to walk. Woo. But like, yeah, like that was cool because like, hey, the maps are big, but also you have an easier way of getting around the maps, and that's what I like a lot about World. Like one of the additions to World is subcamps, and also being able to change and restock mid hunt. Whoever did that, whoever thought about that, deserves a fucking raise.
Yeah, it does kind of like shift what the game is about.
Yeah.
Because pre-World, I feel like Monster Hunter was much more about the attrition.
Yeah.
And when they allow you to just restock all your items as much as you want, it does become a lot more about like the thrill of the fight.
Yeah.
You know, like you're worrying less about preserving your health and more about doing damage. So you're kind of incentivized to take more risks.
Yeah.
Which I think is generally a good thing. And then like also the changes to how healing works also contributes to that.
Being able to move.
Kind of move around.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
I remember the first time I played World, and I was standing still healing, and my brother is like, he's like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you can move while healing, and I was like, what?
Excuse me, what?
So like I started moving, and I was just like I would take like a potion, and I like angle myself to where like a bear charge just goes past me while I'm drinking a potion. Like, all right. So I lived off of disrespect for World. Like I'm just like, okay, cool, charging me all you want, Xenoji, but I'm just gonna keep drinking potions.
Exactly.
He's like, you fool, you can't beat me. I have 10 million potions in my box. You can't stop me. I got nothing.
Yeah.
I got potion broadcasters and a lot of free time. Try to stop me, bitch. Go ahead.
It is weird how a simple change like that can
such
kind
a minor
of
change,
shift. It can it shifts the whole like idea of the game.
Same thing with like riot bugs for me.
Yeah. Well, and I know a lot of people who have an issue with World. Like they miss the attrition and they miss the methodical nature of earlier Monster Hunter games. And I definitely empathize with that. But like those changes
no.
Well, I don't know. Cuz like the reason I like old Tales games is cuz going through a dungeon in those games is a battle of attrition. Like you have 15 orange gels and you have so much TP. So like eventually you're going to run out of healing. Like that kind of gameplay it's definitely valid. I just think especially since World was trying to entice a Western audience.
Yeah, new players.
It's more accessible for sure. And it's nice to just sit down and not have to No.
Hello?
Uh-oh.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, my PC went to sleep again. Incredible.
Damn PC.
I'm so interesting, my computer sleeps. What was I even talking about? Enticing a Western audience?
Yeah.
I don't know. The games, I think the changes are good generally.
Like for example, like one of the biggest changes that Rise did was just being able to just like, oh, I got hit. Nope, I'm getting the fuck out of there. I'm repositioning now. It makes you think so much about where you should be in fights, because every time you get hit, it punishes you, but not hard enough to where like you have to ride on the ground and let the monster kind of like teabag your corpse. You can just be like, okay, I got hit. What if I like go this way instead of the other way? Because the last time I went that way, I got fucking hit immediately again. So let me go this way. So like let me.
Yeah, it does give you a lot more opportunity for trial and error.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like just having that tiny option to just being able to like just move after getting hit is so good. And it's something that I hope that they continue to do, giving us a lot of movement, and then like I'm okay with them tuning up the monsters more if we keep having movement like that. If we keep having like insane movement stuff, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know what the next Monster Hunter game is gonna be like.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you think they're gonna keep wire bugs?
I don't think they're gonna keep wire bugs. I think they're gonna give us something else, but in line with wire bugs that like lets us be able to move freely and shit.
Like the same general function?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It's really interesting thinking about it because on one hand, I want it to be sort of like a Rise thing where it's like, hey, like Rise is really fast, you have a lot of mobility, but I also want mobility up and coming in Monster Hunter games, but I don't want them to just recycle the wire bug, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, the Monster Hunter team doesn't really recycle ideas like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't it like different every game?
Yeah, for the most part,
is.
yeah.
Like you had the styles and generations, you have the Clutch Claw in World, you have the Wire Bugs in Rise. I'm sure older games have their own little quirks too.
Y stones were a thing in Full Ultimate, and also mount spamming was also a thing in hating French players. I wish I
Oh
would
yeah, there was I forgot about the mounting in 4.
Yeah. So, for those of you who don't know, how mounting worked in Full Ultimate was it was hit based, but every single like weapon had the same like hit like had the same hit counts. So it's not like Insect Glaive in World where say like you can kind of just like flippy dip and like other people can also help you mount. So like and there was an armor set, much to many people's knowledge, called the Star Knight armor. Star Knight armor made it so that way Insect Glaive quickly rose to not only being the best mounting weapon, but also just like the best weapon in the game. Because you can legitimately mount spam. Because it only doubled the count. So, for example, I get red extract, jump twice, that's a mount. Monster gets back up, do it again. It doubles it. So it's instead of just 2 hits, it's 4 hits. Instead of 4 hits, it's 8 hits. And you rack up hits really fast. So you could just mount spam and just rock the monster.
Jeez.
It was legitimately a one-player game. If you had multiple Insect Glaive players, forget about it. The monster wasn't getting up. It just wasn't playing the game.
Jeez.
I never experienced that, but I guess like most of the end game I played with you, and we just played Charge Blade.
Yeah, we played Charge Blade and a bunch of we played a wide variety of stuff. I only really used Insect Glaive maybe against Elders, and I didn't even really mount spam.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, okay, the monster's being kind of annoying. I'm gonna go for a mount. Or like if Teosha was getting ready for its Nova, then I was probably gonna try to do that. But that's really it.
Yeah, in a game like 4U, it was probably really hard to balance how mounting worked because like every other weapon didn't have nearly the same access to aerial moves.
Yeah.
So if you balanced how mounting worked thinking of the Insect Glaive, you were not going to get any mounts with any other weapon because you couldn't jump in that game without having a ledge.
Like mounting for Insect Glaive
getting mount damage.
That was
getting mount damage with any other weapon was a very like opportunistic scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in part why I think Insect Glaive kind of falters in Rise, because and with everything, not granted, with the changes of what they did, the like how you get mounts in Rise is obviously different, but also like almost every weapon now has an ability that's like, oh, I'm in the air now, like soaring wyvern blade with switch axe and shit. Like every weapon has abilities that put them in the air, where before that was kind of Insect Glaive
wire bug into the air.
Yeah, exactly. That was also
and do a draw attack.
Yeah, that was Insect Glaive's niche. Was like it was one of the only weapons that could just be in the air whenever they wanted to be. It's like, hey, I could pogo over Rathalos' fireball because I'm funny.
Haha.
But now every monster, if your weapons sheath, you just like, oh, I'm going over the fireball now. There's just a lot of Monster Hunter never really goes down in quality, ever. Especially in quality of life shit, like ever. They hardly ever go down in quality.
Which is the way it should be.
Yeah. You should never be going backwards in quality of life stuff.
No.
I remember, like, I love For You to death, but
yeah,
I would not have been able to play that game if I didn't have, like, friends telling me what to do and dozens of minutes of YouTube content that I had to, like, study.
Monster Hunter, old school Monster Hunter was like doing homework.
Yeah, it was.
You popped in a Gaijin playlist and you sat there for like 3 hours just like listening to him talk about how a weapon works.
I guess Generations was also that way.
Yeah, Generations was that way too. Because
Like,
they don't tell you the differences between styles. So you kind of either had to figure them out or look it up, or how to unlock arts easily. So you kind of had to just look that shit up.
That was another change that World did pretty good. Was like, it explained enough to you that you didn't need to do your own research.
Yeah. Minus a select few things like, hey, like what areas drop what bones or whatever. Besides that,
wasn't there like an in-game compendium for that too?
For like drop items like bones and stuff, there might have been, but I just googled it because it'd be easier than combing through the menus.
Yeah, and I do that for Rise too, but I at least know in Rise where all that stuff is, and it's pretty accessible.
Yeah.
Like when you're looking for a specific drop, it'll tell you.
Yeah, it's so good. Starting from World, it was so good. Like telling you what it drops, the chances of it dropping, what you need to do to get it to drop more. It was fucking phenomenal. Like, so much quality of life stuff was added, I'd say possibly or Generations. Like for example, hey, by a show of hands, who here remembers how much you wanted to hang yourself every time you wanted to upgrade an insect glaive in 4 Ultimate? Because that shit fucking sucked.
I just didn't play insect glaive in 4 Ultimate.
I did. For those of you who do not know, upgrading insect glaives in 4 Ultimate, it was tied to getting extracts, and basically, I guess the easiest way to describe it was you upgraded your insect glaive and your kinsect at the same time. It wasn't separate. So if you fucked up once on a kinsect upgrade, you had to remake the entire weapon.
Oh no.
Yep. But now it's just they're separate, so you can just make that and then smash on a kinsect and then be done with it.
Yeah, you're gonna want to save before you upgrade an insect glaive in 4 Ultimate.
You're gonna want to save and then leave a lobby and sit there and like experiment shit. Granted, once again, goes back to doing homework. You watch a guide on how to upgrade your insect glaive like 17 times before it's beaten into your fucking head. And then by that point,
it does kind of suck that there's only like 1 or 2 good kinsects as well.
In most weapons, there's only like 1 or 2. I mean, in most games, there's only like 1 or 2. Like, there's the one in Fall, like the one in Generations that's just like, it's just the best one. Because it's basically a better hunting horn, and you do a fuck ton of damage. Because it buffs everybody, and you also buff yourself, and you also do more damage.
Seems good.
Yeah, because, let's see, the white extract gives you 15% affinity. And then the red kinsect, I think, gives you like attack up medium. And then when you get orange, it gives you like defense up medium also. And then they all of the buffs stack together. So you're basically just a constant hunting horn.
You get like earplugs.
Yeah, it's just constantly stringing together upgrades. I think the only thing it didn't do was give you earplugs.
Oh,
I think you specifically. No, not for you in Generations Ultimate. You specifically got like low grade earplugs. I don't think anybody else did. But it was also really funny because you're just like, hey.
But also, who gives a shit about low grade earplugs?
Yeah, if you're not committing to high grade, there's no point.
Like, oh no, this Tetsukabra's roaring. Like, that's never a thing I've ever said.
Yeah, you're like, oh, like honestly, his roar. You're out of the sound of his roar before his roar is over.
Yeah.
There's a few monsters that are like that. Like they roar and then you're out of the stun of it before they even stop roaring. There's just been a lot of quality of life stuff that they added. Having massive maps is great with some stuff to do. Also another thing that they don't need to bring back is the stupid ass endemic life stuff that they have in in Rise. It doesn't really serve a purpose.
Which stuff are you talking about? Like collecting the birds and stuff?
Yeah, the spear birds and stuff.
I don't know. That's kind of cool.
It's interesting.
See, you don't like it? I love it.
I don't
like
dislike it. I don't like hate it, but like happen to do it over and over and over again. The funny thing,
it's like
the
putting
thing,
coins in a Mario level. Like you're going from point A to point B. It's just giving you like a little target.
I like doing it in Frost Islands because there's like an actual like route that you can take to collect them all consistently. But some of them are kind of like scattered all about to where it's more of an inconvenience to gather them. Like not Shrine Ruins. Sandy Plains is one of them. Frost Islands is probably my favorite because all of them are like a direct chain that you can just gather all of them mostly. Shrine Ruins isn't too bad. Except Shrine Ruins is kind of like a lot of the Shrine Ruins buffs are like are off the beaten path. Like there's not really a whole lot like on the way to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're talking about Rise Endemic Life, not World.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Rise and World Endemic Life it's cool on paper. Like being able to explore one of the things that I like that they do is that they reward you for doing the like gathering because you could put them in your house, which is really fucking cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's adorable.
Especially like
and
when I get like the super rare
one. You don't have to do
one.
it at all.
Yeah,
like if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it in the Rise either,
fun.
but for endgame stuff, it's kind of more of like a I want to survive more kind of thing. Especially when you're fighting risen monsters. Especially when you're fighting risen monsters. Like risen monsters, you have to buff yourself, otherwise you're going to fucking die. Not afflicted risen monsters, which are basically like the elder ones. They're just gonna one tap you. Huh. I'm trying to think about the map. The Citadel was kind of ass actually for gathering spear birds. I like the Citadel as a whole, but I hate gathering spear birds on the Citadel. Flooded Forest isn't too bad. The jungle's also not horrible.
Every time I never worry about it too much. I just kind of like collect them if I see them.
Every time I go to the jungle, I like the jungle. I always forget that the jungle was like introduced in like generation like 2.
Yeah.
So every time I go there, I'm like, huh, this is super cool. I forgot, and like they changed the map so much. And same thing with like, no, the desert is there. I wish they would bring back. I wish that they would bring back like old school maps, like the desert from like 3 Ultimate and like the snow area from 3 Ultimate. I just want a Gen 3. I just want like a full-fledged like give me like 3 Ultimate remastered or something. Like, I want like a full-fledged remake of a Gen 3. Like keep the weapons playstyle the same, but just like update it with some quality of life stuff, and then we're good.
Yeah, I never got through any of the Gen 3 games. Like, I tried playing 3U, but it was like... I don't know, it was tough to play alone.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like late to the party for 3U.
If you ever get Portable Third, I will play it with you. We can just... There's ways to set it up on emulators where we can play together.
Yeah. That is super nice that like most of the old games can be played on emulator now.
Yeah, and actually,
I think they might even be getting like custom servers for Frontier.
Yeah, Frontier's getting like custom servers and all that. Yeah,
that's super sick.
I'm trying to think of what other game is also good. Like they completely closed off Monster Hunter Online, which it's borderline impossible to be able to play that again.
I feel like that specific one, I'm like not super sad about.
I'm not gonna play. That's just because, like, I feel like if they released it, and one of the biggest problems before World was getting games in the U.S. because it was such like a niche. Monster Hunter went from being one of the smallest like Capcom things to being a borderline household name, like for Capcom games. Like before, you met somebody who played Monster Hunter, and it was like the holy grail of a human being. But now, if you go into any server, you're like, yo guys, Monster Hunter, you'll have like 35 people coming out of the woodwork like, what, Monster Hunter? Let's do it. You know, like.
It is nice to to feel like there's a community of people.
Yeah. Well, we had like a small group of people who could hit sleeping casuals and those who couldn't.
So true.
I don't think I've ever told Liz the story of the sleeping kazoo.
Probably shouldn't bring up any names.
I'm not gonna bring up any names. We had a person who keep in mind Charge Blade in 4 Ultimate. It's very hard to miss your ult in that game because it's so fucking massive. But he decided to take it upon himself to miss the sleeping kazoo, and it was extremely funny. Because then afterwards, he decided to make fun of Gormagala and be like, "Oh, you blind motherfucker!" And one of our friends, was like, "I bet he could hit a sleeping kazoo," and we.
One of our friends is me.
Yeah, and also.
It's like,
yeah.
At least Gormagala could fucking hit a sleeping kazoo. That shut him up for a while.
I don't know how much you know about sleeping monsters or Monster Hunter, but they kind of don't fucking move. So
yeah.
It's very hard to miss.
It was Red Kazoo too. Literally missed the broadside of a barn.
The far bigger version of Kazoo, and they missed it, and I was just like, okay, good for you, buddy. I want to. I will probably dedicate maybe like 5 or 6 minutes to talking about Monster Hunter likes, like God Eater and Toikiden and Dauntless. Dauntless makes me kind of sad because
Dauntless is so bad.
It's I don't want to say it's like horrible because I play Toikiden and I think Toikiden is the weakest of Monster Hunter likes.
I mean, they can all be bad.
Yeah.
I don't like any of those games.
I like God Eater. I think God Eater's fun.
I've only played Dauntless and I wasn't a fan.
Dauntless is definitely. It's so obvious that like
I respect the fact that it's free.
Yeah.
Like it's a nice.
If I had to pay for Dauntless, if I had to pay for Dauntless, I probably still wouldn't have played it. Like I would have been like, I haven't played it because I don't want to pay for it, unless I found it on sale for like $3 or $4. Dauntless is just sad because every time somebody discovers a fun build to like kill monsters faster, the devs just nerf it like immediately. Like they immediately just shove it back into the dirt. And it doesn't make any sense. It kind of makes sense for like, because it technically is kind of PvP because there's like the Dauntless trials, and if everybody's running the same thing, it kind of makes sense. But also, it's like the PvE side. You also punish the PvE side of it too, because we're like, hey, grinding in your game isn't very fun. We want the grind to go as fast as possible, but you're actively telling us to go fuck ourselves every time you nerf one of our like fun builds or like high damage builds.
Well, and also like it's kind of the fighting game balancing issue where if 2 things are different, one of them is always going to be better.
Yeah.
And there's no, especially in a game where it's PvP, where it sounds like it's just like a time trial.
It is a time trial thing, yeah.
Yeah. One thing is just going to be better than the other. There's no like matchup or anything that changes how that dynamic works. You're just always going to have the best thing, so it's going to be like the opposite of power creep, where you're just constantly like bogging down the best thing until everything just feels pointless in the first place. I never got that far in Dauntless, though, to be honest.
God Eater's an interesting thing.
I never got past every sound effect sounding like fucking Zawarudo, and then like none of the hits feeling like they had any impact.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that game just feels free to play to me.
One of my personal favorite Monster Hunter like is I have to say God Eater, just because God Eater's more like kind of over the top and just like anime bullshit flippy dips. Let's fucking spin with fucking giant sides. Like, it's really fun. There's not a whole lot of quality of life stuff, but minus one, that Monster Hunter, Capcom, if you're listening, please, for the love of God, take note. Let us be able to skip directly to the end of the mission. Because they let you, like, I carved the monster in God Eater, and then I push 2 buttons, and I don't have to wait the 60 seconds to go back to hub. I can just go straight back to the hub. It's so fucking nice, because there's not much shit you can do after a hunt anyway.
Yeah, and it's such a little, like, change,
Yeah.
but it has such a big impact.
It saves so much time at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're doing thousands of hunts, you're literally wasting thousands of minutes.
Yeah. And it's just a really nice thing to have. And, like, don't get me wrong, God Eater isn't the most polished game of all time. It's not the most polished game. But, like, it's still fun to me. Suikoden, however, is the game that I dislike the most. Because there's just, like, it's the most bare bones Monster Hunter game. One of the things that it does kind of cool is it tries to make it a pseudo open world. Where, like, you could start from the main camp and go all the way around the world in one go. And I think that's really cool.
Which Tokiden game did you play?
I played 2.
Okay.
And then I think
I played
a little bit. I was gonna say I did play a little bit of Kiwami too. And not to mention Wild Hearts. We won't even bring up Wild Hearts until that game decides to function like a video game.
Yeah, I've watched gameplay of it, and it looks better than the 3 other Monster Hunter likes, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really fun. I've seen people play it, but it just runs really poorly.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably run it, not to flex on people, but I'm kind of a gamer. I got a PC that can handle it, probably, but
I've seen. Yeah,
they're saying that even like newer graphics cards are struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're probably struggling on max settings, but I'm so blind that doesn't matter anyway.
I've had somebody they had to release a patch that where you could lower the settings even more to hope that you could run it on the lower settings.
That's their fix. They didn't optimize their video game. They just made it so you're processing less textures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's made by EA.
Is that not how you do it? Wait a second.
I don't know. Are you not
supposed to do that? Are you not supposed to just lower the quality even more?
Yeah. Odd.
It almost makes too much sense.
Yeah, especially since the way I like to play Monster Hunter games is to do like the just timing with counter moves. I probably would not enjoy lag spikes a lot.
Yeah. I forgot you play like all of the counter weapons. You play lance, you play longsword.
I play longsword and lance.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I don't like the games as much too, is because like that play style is kind of underrepresented in other Monster Hunter like games. Like I don't remember God Eater having anything like that.
I think the like the medium blade had a counter, but it's so like not needed.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to land, so you kind of just like forget that it exists. Especially because, like, a lot of the time in God Eater, the monster animations aren't the fucking best, so you can't tell when they're winding up a move.
That shit also irks me And that was a huge problem for me in Dauntless too, was the just like I can never tell when a monster is about to move.
Yeah.
And there's like it's really underappreciated in Monster Hunter, but like you can always tell exactly what move is coming out if you fought a monster enough.
Yeah.
And even if you haven't fought it enough, you can tell that something's about to happen.
Yeah.
And it's so subtle and masterfully done that you don't think about it until you play a game that doesn't have it. And you're like, holy
For example,
shit!
One of my favorite fights that I tell a lot of people like from the beginning is the first time you fight Zenogre. Like, you're fighting him, he's moving around. And like in the old games, like, he doesn't like charge, he doesn't like run forward and then charge. Like he would just stand there and just start charging. And your first reaction, if you see him doing some shit like that, you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then you get the fuck out of there. Like,
yep, I can attest. Did that world.
You're like, what the fuck? And then you leave.
Like, I don't know what that is, but I don't want to be here
But
for
then
it.
the more you fight him, you're like, oh, he's just charging. Like the first time you see him transform, you're like, oh, that's what he's doing. Okay, I'm supposed to try to stop him from doing that. Got it. Like,
understood.
But like in Dauntless, like a monster charges and like they're like charge and move, and sometimes they just keep charging, or sometimes they charge and then they stop and then they hit you, and you're like, what the fuck, dude? Because like for Zenogre, it's very obvious. Like, hey, charging. When he's charging, it means free hit until he's fully charged. Until he's fully charged, you can freely hit him. So do that. But in Dauntless, it's like, hey, he's charging, but also he might just stop and just slap you in your shit. And it's a grand old time when you fight monsters, and like Toweekenden kind of does the same thing too, where it's just like, hey, the monsters just kind of doing whatever the fuck they want, and if you get hit, that's whatever, who cares? Because you should have saw it coming, even though it's very hard to see coming.
You're bad.
Yeah. Because like the way you tell health in Toweekenden is or Toweekenden, however the fuck you say it, is you activate like a demon's eye thing, and you see the monster's health bar, but the entire screen turns like purple. So, in order to keep track of the monster's health and what parts you need to break, you need to activate that and keep that on. Which means that you can't see what the monster's doing because the screen is like fucking dark purple. So,
right.
You just gotta flash it.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, I just kind of like memorize what needs to be broken, and then another cool thing that
I'm used to playing without health bars. I don't need that shit.
Right.
Toweekenden is also really cool because when you break the parts, you have to like kind of like purge the part to get the materials, and I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah, there is the whole
like the purge thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really cool mechanic. Like, oh, we broke this part off, and if you don't purge it, it's just gonna go right back onto its body. So you gotta purge it to neuter it, and I just think it's really funny.
Right.
Especially some monsters, like it's so funny because you fight one guy.
Exercise, that was the word I was looking for.
Oh yeah, exercise.
You have to exercise the pieces. Yeah.
Like there's one of them you break all of their legs, and like they just kind of flail on the ground until their parts regrow, and it's really funny. And they try to like body slam you and shit, and it's really funny. But I'd say that wraps up this episode because I'm hungry and I want to go eat.
Sounds good.
That sounds very good, yeah.
It was good. We don't know when the next one's gonna be because schedules are fucking the schedules of all time.
Let's just say I'd be touching grass.
Let's just say I'd be touching grass, bro. We are gamers out here. I'm gonna press the stream button. I'm gonna press the stop streaming button.